As I was walking down the street, a billboard caught my eye. The things that were upon it would make you laugh and cry. The board was torn and tattered from the storm the night before. The wind and rain had done its job, and this is what I saw. Chew chocolate-covered mothballs, they always satisfy. Drink Wrigley Spearmint root beer, it'll never leave you dry. Smoke Coca-Cola cigarettes or know the reason why. Brush your teeth with dial soap and watch the suds go by. As I recovered from my shock, I went upon my way. I hadn't gone but half a block, and what to my dismay, another billboard caught my eye, and like the one before, the wind and rain had done its job, and this is what I saw. Take your next vacation in a brand new Frigidaire. Learn to play piano in your winter underwear. Simonize your baby with a Hershey's candy bar. Texas Oil, the beauty soap, is used by all the stars. Now doctors say that babies shouldn't smoke until they're 3, and people over 35 should bathe in Lipton tea. And if you want the world to be a better place by far, buy a record of the song and smash it with your car. Hey!
Over time, the more I interact with you, the more I realize you've been right this whole time. Not always, but sometimes.
Oh, Sam! I love you too.
I also know how to push your buttons, but
all right. Now to get to the delivery on the antisocial part. And that is all right. The guy in the top left, he's a drinking game where every time he says the word I, you take a shot. And you'll be dead in 10 minutes.
Meow meow. What up? It's been a while. Hello, meowsters, meowmers, those of the meow, those who meow meow brown cow. Look at Paul. Look at. Also, Ron Copperman. Guess what? You know what I didn't know? I didn't expect, like, the very beginning of this page was, so I'll just read this. Yeah, hardcover. I mean, isn't that the only thing you can get? The introduction, because this came up in the Ron Copperman Woo stream of he said, who did he say? Oh, he was talking about Ross Bird, and he was saying that Ross Bird mentioned, or in his conversation with Ethan, apparently, which is on Substack and not released on YouTube yet, that they were talking about talking to mountains. And apparently Ross Bird said, I'd be open to doing that when I, what did he say? Know how or something like that. And I was like, oh, that reminds me of the beginning of this book, which I was not expecting him to talk about having met Black Elk, because this book starts off in South Dakota, my home state, kids. So he says, I felt like I'd never seen a real human being before. An old man pointed his ceremonial pipe at the rain clouds and started addressing them as if they were dear friends. I can't quite explain why this reduced me to rubble. He spoke gently to the great canopy of sky above us. He wasn't worshiping, but he was certainly negotiating. He was encouraging the clouds to move along. After a few more minutes, he turned to me and spoke. Okay, that's enough for me. You actually come from here. Charm them. They're listening. So actually it doesn't, that's not in South Dakota. That must be in England where Martin Shaw is from. But they do talk a lot about the Badlands of South Dakota and being in, what are we talking about? Oh, seeking genuine choppy. Okay, anyhow, I'm finding this book to be good. I was going to share some parts of it with you, PVK, because I know that you really liked it. I have notes of like what so far. Like when he discovered orthodoxy, he said it was like wildness and discipline dancing together, which, that hit me. And then he talks about spirits all around us at 16. Oh yeah, that's a good section, because it really reminded me of that hideous strength. And this is how I think it is. One night I dreamt I was walking, and as I walked, I passed many people. Moving through and around these folks were Elohim, spirits of the air, both positive and negative in character. These beings were visible and advising us. No one was independent of these constantly arising encounters. That's called everything is spiritual. It was what humans did with these persuasions and influences that mattered. I called to the captain and asked him why we couldn't see these spiritual energies in our waking lives. It would make everything so much simpler. All of humanity will then see this reality, acknowledge it, and we would just know in a much clearer way what we're all battling. I mean, right? Sam Harris, T-Grog? Right? I mean, just make it obvious, God. You know? Watch Father John Bear. The disciples didn't even believe until they were given it from above through the breaking of the bread and the opening of the scriptures. Sacramental reality broke through their perceptions and their reality when it was given to them a gift that they were capable of receiving. And then he says, but what would be the use of faith? A voice said. You would not grow in the way I wish if that reality was made visible to you. Seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Everything is a gift if you receive it as a gift. Look at that, William, you little rascal. The blind see no sun. Yeah, just show us the Father. You can't. I and the Father are one. Yeah, there's a lot in this. Oh man. So I've been thinking a lot about boundaries lately. Boundaries. Ah! It's not very practically in my own life. In my family, in my embedded life. I mean, I think it's a evergreen topic in the TLC, but we're always talking about it. Boundaries and bodies and what makes up a boundaries and how do you discern boundaries and inclusion and exclusion and excommunication and divorce and like how do you navigate all of that? When to do it? It's not merely when people disagree with you, because disagreement, at least intellectual, propositional agreement, is not the only thing that's necessary for, I think, bodily, social, cultural cohesion. Although there is like there is a fundamental religious thing there. Maybe the water that you're swimming in, to allude to the title of "Do Fish Not Know They're Wet?" which I'm usually, when I'm talking about that, I'm referencing the David Foster Wallace of like the two young fish swim by the old fish, and the old fish says, "Hey, how's the water?" And they look at him confused and swim away, and then they look at each other afterwards, and they're like, "What's water?" Can fish know they're wet? Can you learn about the water that you're swimming in? Is it possible to see the medium that you're in? Like it's kind of like the Matrix thing. Can you awaken to the Matrix to know that you're in the Matrix? Can you awaken to deeper realities and the religions in which you swim? And it's very related to the stuff PVK has been talking about a lot in his recent homerooms with Islam. And I feel like it's been much more easy to perceive it because, in a very Tom Holland way, in America, we are all Christian. We're all Protestant Christians because that's just our cultural inheritance. That is our historical, that is the American body and culture. That is its inheritance, Enlightenment, Protestant, rationality, John Locke, just like the founding fathers, that is our inheritance, which is very deistic Christian, very influenced by the Christian worldview, but specifically Protestant Enlightenment. And so can you become aware of those religious underpinnings? And then even within that, in all the different levels that it works, whether it's like, we've talked about these things before, the national level and immigration and the boundaries, and how open are those boundaries? How How impervious are the boundaries? The cell membrane within like even a cell, which a quick aside, a quick plug for Neil. I'm just going to pull it up because people should watch it. I'm plugging things that are awesome. I think I put it on my channel of like, dude. Okay, I got to share this because it's funny because it just popped up. When is that happening? Today? Today at 12 o'clock my time, Central Time. Yosef and David. Oh man, the full Nathan Jacobs just dropped too. Okay, sorry. I'm looking at my... All right, here's my YouTubes. I just saw this. This is what I was talking about though. 20 minutes of Yosef clarifying. So this is probably... I don't know. Neither of these gentlemen told me that they were going to do this, but it's maybe because of my conversation with David and just saying like, I want to fight you, Chezi, because he was saying like, I want to argue about the like the Trinity and Christianity and Judaism and messiahs, and I want to wrestle through some of that. So that's coming today, 12. But the thing I was going to share was a few things. This Neil Daedalus, this one, look at the old bass clarinet man himself, Neil and Yoav. Excellent. I was not expecting, I don't know. I was not expecting, not that I expected it to be bad. I just didn't expect it to be as good as it was. They spoke about a lot of things, a lot of really sciencey stuff. Biology, evolution, nanotechnology, color. Yoav, he was saying, I can't even remember what he said his degree was a long time ago. Yoav's older than I thought he was. But he was saying he was educated in like this super narrow specialty that he says only one person is educated in Israel per year. And I don't know, like they had a lot of great, here, I'm going to go into it. Let's see, what are they? I left many comments, even though you, the Deloitte rotifer, is that rotifer? And sex, which is like this little animal. It's like an asexual animal and how it asexually reproduces and why. And it's kind of interesting. And this little, look at that little banger. Nanotechnology that works is biology. Like if you can develop a nanotechnology and it actually functions biologically and in there, it's in that sense, it's like it's undifferentiated from being actually biological. And they talk about like cells and how we've never been able to reproduce cells. Like only cells can make cells. And we don't know how to make them. I don't know. It's a lot. There's a lot of like really subtle bombs that were dropped in here. What else? Yeah. Why you cannot, 2042, why you cannot build a cell. Yeah, very good. First shout out. Next shout out. Let's see here. Two other things. I think I put these in the things, but like this, I think it was live when they did it, right? The search for the Holy Techne, was it not videos? So this, Matt Gray, Afriel, and the quest for the Holy Techne. Great sections in there on propaganda. That's the thing that I remember from it being particularly good. Lots of great gems in there. And then Nick he hosted Skankenstein's Little Zine and Chill, Cyberpunk and Islam. A lot of great stuff. Matt did a really good PVK. If you're still here, you should probably just talk to Matt about Islam. Matt C knows a ton about Islam. And you should watch that video that they have on their Cyberpunk and Islam because it's really interesting. One of the things Skank said in there was that Islam is, or Cyberpunk. Yeah, it wasn't Islam. Cyberpunk isn't just like kind of Isaac Asimov modernist science fiction. Like Cyberpunk is kind of postmodern It's philosophically postmodern, but also technological and stuff. I don't know. It was very interesting. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, anyhow, maybe Matt is already influencing you with his zine. Yeah, zine. Did I say zine? Vaccine. Don't say that. Anyhow, those are all really good shout outs. And okay, what else? What was I talking about? Religion and epistemologies and meaning. So one of the things, Phlebas really disagreed with me on this. I think, yeah, magazine, zine. Disagreed with me on this, but PVK said in one of his videos that, so he's been getting all these Islamic persons coming out and commenting on his videos because the algo kind of blew him up, and not Christian YouTube. What would it be? Islama YouTube. Ooh, nice. Magazine. I think that's actually why Skank did it. Skank's a huge Trump supporter. I mean, that's maybe not public, but he talks about it all the time. It's like, dude, we get it. We get it, how obsessed you are with Trump. But I think that's why, because of the mega and then the zine. I don't really think it has anything to do with zines. But so yeah, that video, whatever it was with PVK, and he said one of the comments was like, if you really understood it, you would be Muslim. Now, what's kind of funny about that, and I said something like that because that is one of my Lukeisms, essentially, is like you only really understand anything from the inside. Life is not tried, it is merely survived if you're standing outside the fire. You know what I mean? And also, by the way, I'm kidding about the whole Skank thing. Being a mega supporter. I doubt that he really is. Skank being an intelligent, discerning person probably has nuanced opinions about it. But Skank and I someday may have a conversation about punk and anarchism and stuff like that because, you know, he's familiar with some of those worlds. So that was a joke. I want to let it be known that I was kidding. But okay, if you really understood Islam, you would be Muslim. To me, that's almost like tautologically true. And part of the reason for that, and I put this in my last video, I'm going to look it up. What is it? I'm going to find it. I know how to find it. Here we go. I'm going to share screen this because and this is like one of the most personalist quotes in the world. All right, here we go. Look at Victor just being, I got to get the zoom right. Are we sharing? Is this working? Okay, here we go. Not that stupid pop-up. I don't want you. Good grief. Bad timing. Okay. Love is the only way to grasp another. Also, shout out Michael, my friend Michael, because this is the guy who encouraged Nate to start Grail Country. Old friend, old rando. A lot of great Randos United videos with Michael, but he's the one who first shared this quote with me. Love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. No one can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being unless he loves him. By his love, he is enabled to see the essential traits and features in the beloved person. And even more, he sees that which is potential in him, which is not yet actualized, but yet ought to be actualized. Furthermore, by his love, the loving person enables the beloved person to actualize these potentialities, agapeing them into being, person-making, right? By making him aware of what he can be and what he should become, he makes these potentialities come true. In logotherapy, love is not interpreted as a mere epiphenomenon of sexual drives and instincts in the sense of a so-called sublimation. Love is as primary a phenomenon as sex. Normally, sex is a vehicle of expression of love. Sex is justified, even sanctified, as soon as, but not only as long as, it is a vehicle of love. Thus, love is not understood as a mere side effect of sex. Rather, sex is a way of expressing the experience of that ultimate togetherness, which is called love. Divine Eros. I actually have never read, I've never read from here on the logotherapy and all the sex stuff. But just the love is is the only way to see the core and the innermost thing of another person, which I think would mean for me that you cannot understand someone unless you love them. So this is part of, we used to talk about in the TLC for a while, like Philosophia and Philonikeia, which is, Nikeia, Athena, Nikeia, the goddess of war, victory, right? Nikeia, victory, Nike, just do it. Victory. But that's different than Philosophia, the love of wisdom. And I think what wisdom points to is this deeper thing of love, which is loving someone in the innermost core of their being, which I think really happens through, as a Christian, I think this is a core conviction of my Christianity that comes through self-emptying, that comes through kenosis, that comes through being a living sacrifice, Christ in me, and giving of yourself. There is no greater love than this, than giving of your life for the other, up to and including your enemy. So, and that really is love, because it is the self-emptying. It is not insisting on your own way. It is not, that's 1 Corinthians 13. Love is patient. Love is kind. It doesn't envy. It doesn't boast. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not rejoice in, what is it? Love does not rejoice in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always hopes, always trusts, always perseveres. Love never fails. That whole thing. Love covers a multitude of sins. Love covers a multitude of missing the marks. Love is forgiveness. How many times should we forgive? 7? 70, 70 times 7, 77 times. You should forgive, because I think that is what it is like to be united to God, to embody God, to become like God as a human being, is to become one who forgives. And it's easier said than done, man. Which comes all the way back to boundaries, because I don't. One of my biggest idols is, despite what I say, because this is one of those things where I don't yet know as I ought to know. I think I know, but I do not yet know as I ought to know. And I will know fully when I am fully known. 1 Corinthians 8, like that is all of my personal knowing. When I am fully known is when I am fully, I had this realization recently, when I'm fully in Christ, which means when I'm fully dead. It's a very Lilith idea. When my flesh has been fully, when all the dead wood has been fully burnt off, when I am, when all that is perishable in me has perished, perhaps when I have a face, when we have faces, I will maybe see these things as I ought to see, but that's when I'm fully known. That's when I'm fully united to Christ, which is fully dead. I have given up the ghost. I have whatever in me is like self-preserving, which is somehow tied to like death drive and fear of death and fear and insecurity. When you have fallen back into the void, the trust fall of God into death, maybe I will be capable of loving how I'm supposed to love. Because my big idol is that I think if I can talk enough, or convey my heart enough, or my feelings enough, or whatever, then this is the subtle libidinal pursuit of the lack that I pursue, and then I realize it's an idol. It's not going to happen, because there are times when I I've realized somewhat recently the futility of talking. Let's say it that way, which probably is surprising. And the seed of that is hidden in that little saying that I like to say is, God is he about whom we must never speak, but we must always keep speaking, and everything, because you think you can understand something, but you don't understand it until you love, which is give of yourself, die to your own leaning, not on your own understanding, but in all your ways, in your adverbial ways, acknowledging him, and he will make your path straight. And as you step forward into the fog of the future, the unknown. And I've realized that, I guess I'm going to say two things. I'm going to talk about, finish this thought about what I've realized in my idolatry, that that there are certain gifts, because I really do believe this. Everything is a gift if you receive it as a gift. But there are certain things that I'm not capable of receiving as a gift, at least not yet, not in Chronos, not in this linear time. And I said this recently. I don't know. I was maybe talking to Joseph and Cal, maybe? Was it you that I was saying this? That I sometimes when I have like a fight with a family member or a person, it's just like, basically that's what's happening, is that when I sin in that fight, because I can be angry but not sin, so that wouldn't necessarily be me sinning. But when I get angry and do sin in a fight due to fear or whatever, because I typically think that's what anger is, almost, except righteous anger. I think unrighteous anger is always undergirded by fear, some form of insecurity. So that really is one of those tells. Like when you get angry, I think you should go like, what am I afraid of? But most people don't do that, because the fear is really the defense mechanism to protect those fears and insecurities and perhaps idols. Because if you really are willing to give all these things, willing to give of these things and trust God in faith, then you wouldn't be angry. You might be afraid, but you wouldn't be angry. But that's the courageous thing. So I've realized there are times when I think I can delude myself in my idealism or my utopianism, which is the no place. It doesn't exist. That I want to be all things for all people, and that in so much as it depends on me, I want to live peaceably with all men. And like, that's the ideal, right? That's the goal. That's what I'm shooting for. I want that. But then I also realize, like, I'm not perfect. Like, I have deficiencies. And some of those are natural limitations that are fine, that aren't failures, but there aren't moral failures on my part. But sometimes there are moral failures on my part where I'm just like, this person is offering me a gift. And sometimes this is bad. This is a hard thing. Like, sometimes I think this is what I'm trying to say is, like, sometimes someone is like emotionally slapping you in the face, or it feels like a slap in the face, like they're insulting you. And really, this is why my whole thing is like, everything is a gift if you receive it as a gift. That is a gift to learn patience, to learn temperance, to learn long suffering. Like, that's the thing, is like, you can't become patient if you never have situations that require you to be patient. And to be patient, you have to not be getting what you want. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants to not get what they want. And so that is, but that is the medium, those are the situations, those are the events that are going to create the kind of person who is patient, who has that kind of character. You don't develop the capacity to be one who forgives, which in my assertion is like one who is like God, without people sinning against you. Like, that's, in order to forgive people, people have to be sinning against you. And so those are gifts. When people sin against you, it's a gift, because it's an opportunity to be like God. I don't think that we think of it that way, because, St. Paul says that, like, well, the book of James says that, consider it all joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. And perseverance, when it's become whole, mature, and complete, Well, and all of you should ask for wisdom, because when you ask of God, like, you need that to become mature and complete. I'm forgetting the exact verse. But like the becoming, the suffering, that is part of what it means to be a human being. To actually be a divine human being is to become one who suffers well. My wife and I watched this show, Love is Blind. I know Sam Tiedemann watches Love is Blind too. And all these people are like, you know, parents and family and everyone else, they're all like, I want to be happy. I want to be happy. I want to be happy. When you're looking for a spouse, you shouldn't look for someone where you can be happy. You should look for someone who you can suffer well with. I learned recently that, let me look this up. Socrates' wife and, yeah, nagging Socrates. Let me here. So like, I learned this about Socrates, that apparently, nope, wrong thing. Share screen, Socrates. So apparently Socrates' wife, I have no idea how to say her name, Xanthippe, is historically renowned as a sharp-tongued, nagging shrew who often berated the philosopher. She is famously depicted as having a fierce temper, often once dousing Socrates with water, yet she also likely was a devoted mother, facing poverty due to neglect of his family, as depicted in Plato's Phaedra. So Socrates' perspective. Yeah, Socrates allegedly viewed her as a good training for dealing with people, joking that if you can live with a woman like that, you can handle anyone. So like a nagging wife, everything is a gift if you can receive it as a gift. Socrates' nagging wife is a blessing. It's really just a shift of perspective. It's like glass half full, glass half empty. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? You know, it also reminds me of what is that? The Chinese farmer parable. We'll see. You know, is this a good thing or is it a bad thing? We'll see. And a lot of it has to do with your perspective. This is an insight that I thought, and this is another part of this, of like defining boundaries and terms and inclusion and exclusion, is Skank said this in one of those conversations. It was either in the Ethan conversation or the whatever conversation, but he was saying, and this is part of internet hygiene. I was actually talking with Ups about this recently, and then also our very own President Foxman, Noah himself, president. They're throwing around the idea of internet hygiene and boundaries, and part of internet hygiene is like production value, having audio that really works, having your technical difficulties figured out, because it's the same thing. Because if this really is internet hospitality, and we're creating a space for person making and for discussions and for people to share ideas and to play and to learn, which includes opponent processing, which includes encouragement, includes all that stuff. That's part of what makes a person, and a space to what does Seabax call it? Like space to think out loud or whatever. If we're doing all that, part of it is like you have to have your shit figured out enough and your technology figured out enough where like it works. If your audio sucks, especially new people, they aren't going to listen to it. Like, it's hard enough. TLC has a steep enough slope. Like I was watching the last House of Woo, and like, Ron, God bless you, buddy. I think it was eventually Brett who figured it out. I don't think Brett's in here. No, it wasn't. It wasn't Brett. It was who was it? See, I know all these people. It was I believe his name is Jared, but what's his handle? He's a British dude, like a British Indian dude. What's his handle? Anyhow, but it was like there was just like he just had this going on. And it was just like, you have to take off the thing that's blocking your camera. You just need to move it over to the side. And that's part of internet hygiene, right? Like if your audio sucks, and if you're constantly like dealing with technological stuff, the people who know and who are part of the community might stay and just laugh and just be like, oh, because this is like a silly boomer moment, whatever, it's fine. But like a new person will come on and just be like, people click away. People have short attention spans. People click away so fast. Like, we can't even watch long form content. Like if there's somebody who's clicked onto this who isn't already in TLC, what are the chances that some newbie saw this stream, it popped in the algorithm, they clicked on it, and they're still here? They're like, who is this dude? What is he talking about? Why doesn't he comb his hair? This is Word Salad. Again, this is like the last video that I released with Scout, you know, where they were like, what's your major? And she said, decolonizing academia and, you know, finding and then rediscovering indigenous culture and language and something like that. And they were just like, it's word salad. But like, that's part of it is you only understand anything from the inside. You don't understand it from the outside because language works that way. Like if I'm talking right now, the illustration I always love with that, I'm speaking English. If you click on this stream and you don't know English and you only know Chinese, it's word salad. If I say something like epistemology or ontology or like an anthropomorphism or something like that, if you don't know certain terminology in language, or it could be scientific thing, like a distillate, or you could just be like a solvent, chemistry, you know, like bricklayers, every field in the world, theological field, you know, just like supersessionism. Like if you don't, adoptionism, Christology, if you don't understand the language of anything, grafting, viticulture, wine making, bourbon mash, you know, there's technical language in every field. Construction has technical language. A plumb line. Do you know what a plumb line is? Like the crown in a 2x4. Do you know what that is? Like there's certain things you don't understand until you've been initiated, because that's how all knowledge is. Like you don't know how to walk until you've been initiated in walking. You don't know how to swim. You could talk endlessly about swimming and write books about it. You don't know how to swim until you get in the pool. You know, like that's how everything works. And so you can always look outside of some experience of something and judge it from the outside. But if you don't understand it from the inside, you don't really get it. I think that's obvious. That's obvious. Like language is that way. That doesn't mean that you have to, like, I don't know why that is. Like, I think Peugeot responds to this really greatly when like he talks about other religions. And I do think largely this is my understanding of how Orthodoxy views other religions. It's just like, is Orthodoxy the true religion? Yes. Because, and we just take that as like a truism. We think of it as the fullness of the faith. Now, is that a judgment on other religions? I don't know. That's not my business. Like I'm doing what God has called me to. Other people's thing is their business. Like what my job is to do is to proclaim the good news to you, the gospel of Jesus Christ, because I love it, the same way that I would if I like found a really great burger joint, or I was just like, man, I'm really passionate about this, fill in the blank, car, or new book that I'm reading, or new video game, or whatever. This YouTube channel that I discovered, this blah, fill in the blank. This, you know, this new brand of socks that I love. And if that resonates to someone, you offer them that gift. I love this. Do you love this? Do you see that? And then if it resonates with them, then they can receive that gift and it can awaken meaning in them, and then it can bear much fruit. But if they don't have anything in them to resonate with that gift, then they can't receive it. There's no reflection. The mirror doesn't work. Yeah, I do. I mean, the gospel pervades everything. It's the sun by which I see everything, including socks. So, all the way back to boundaries. And it's, I mean, a lot of this is about religion and boundaries and different things. Is like in my space, I've started talking about rules. So here, before we open it up, I'll start talking about rules. And then I'll pin the comment as I probably go use the bathroom and wait for people to come in, and I'll just play, narcissistic branding. What am I doing? Oh, here I am. Let's community. We're working. We're getting there. We're doing it. Community settings. Oh, shoot. Now that opened up another screen. I shared the wrong screen. So annoying. See, this is internet hygiene. Have your shit together. Know what's going on. This is part of Grimm's branding. We know Grimm's here. Channel guidelines. Here we go. Welcome to a space to scatter seeds and conserve hospitality. Take some seeds to plant. Plant some seeds, guys. No name calling. Steelman ideas, which means, again, I'm going to make a playlist of like Luke Thompson's Mount Rushmore videos that he always references. One of them will be like Tim Keller's How to Disagree from his, Gospel Coalition with Michael Horton and Matt Chandler. Reformed Baptist, Reformed Presbyterian. Well, I think both Horton and Keller were Reformed Presbyterians. Anyhow. So Steelman, How to Disagree Well. And in that, again, to refresh your memories, it says, before you disagree, be able to articulate the other and this is just about ideas. This is just conversation about ideas. Be able to articulate the other person's ideas in such a way that not only would they say, yes, that is my idea, but it's better than I could have said it. Happens almost never. Almost never. Really difficult to do. Should probably take some time trying to do it by probably asking questions rather than just like beginning to argue, which is also something I've realized I hate debate. I've realized this more and more. I don't like debate culture. I don't even like debate culture within TLC. I don't like conversations in mediums where people just quickly jump on disagreement, because I don't. It's not a way. This is just something I realized. Some people like it. It is not a way that I want to play. I'm just not interested in doing that. Quickly disagreeing, especially in like with aggressive tones. I don't like it. And here's the thing. Skankenstein said in that one video that I maybe never even finished the thought, where he said, you don't have to play every game. That's part of internet hygiene. That's part of your own internet hygiene. I don't have to play every game. Like when I'm doing a stream and there's 26 people here or whatever, and I open it up and somebody comes in, like if you come in and you want to play a certain game, I don't have to play that game. And I think that's fine. That's not even a judgment. It's a discernment. It's not a judgment. I'm not even saying it's a hidden life. I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong. I just don't want to do it. Like if my kids do this to me all the time. Like my son, he's always coming up with these situations of just like, it's like the little kid version of like a T-Rex. If a brontosaurus and a triceratops fought and they were in 10 feet of water and who would win? And I was like, I don't want to do that right now. Sometimes I'll do it. Sometimes, I don't have to play every game you want. So that's debate culture, steel manning ideas. That's what it is. Star manning persons came from Angel Eduardo. People are always asking me where it came from. It came from this guy, Angel Eduardo. I first saw it from Pick and Choose. And it's that you assume the best in the person. You assume until you have innocent until proven guilty is another way to say it. Until you have good reason, very good reasons to assume intent, don't. Assume the best. If at all possible, in as much as it depends on you, live at peace with all men. Okay? Charity, grace, forgiveness. But this is the thing, again, that I've learned about, I'm just going to take this down for a second, about discernment, is you can't, I think this is what exclusion is for. This is my David Bentley Hart, Traditio Deformis. It's not a YouTube video, but this is probably in my Mount Rushmore of things that I reference. This article about what is election biblically and the motif of election. It is exclusion in time, in chronos, in the hope of future inclusion, grafting back in. And that is Paul's argument in Romans. election is never an eternal. I would argue it's not an eternal judgment in the Bible. Pick any election, Abraham, Noah, whatever. All of those things were for hope of future inclusion. Yes, did all the people die in the flood? Yes, but then I also think in 1 Peter, Jesus went and preached to all the people in prison, which I think is to the dead, which may include the angels. And PBK just released the conversation with Nathan Jacobs, and he said, can angels be saved? In Orthodoxy, at least, it's an open question. Even the fathers, even a lot of the church fathers disagreed. And I know, listen, a lot of ortho bros will come in here and just be like, no, they didn't, and here it is, and why, blah, 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 blah. Don't stop approaching the text like there's meaning in the text per se, because there's not. And that's something I've talked about a lot. And again, I think transactionally people are going to understand me because of my words, but I should know better because that's not how understanding works. So I will keep talking about it, and hopefully that is the gift that God will give me so that I can die to my idolatry of thinking that I can explain things through language, or that anyone can explain things through language to me. Okay, let's go back to the rules before I open this up. Okay, we are back to here. No name calling, no ad hominem, steelman ideas, starman persons. Innocent until proven guilty. But here's the thing. If you come on my channel repeatedly and you consistently show up with the same energy, doing the same things over and over and over, let's say like 10, 20 times, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to forgive you. It doesn't mean that I'm going to judge you, but it's also like, okay, now I have sufficient reason and experience to show that like if I invite you back into my channel, into my house, internet hospitality, you're probably just going to do the same shit you always do. And I don't have to play that game. That's the olives thing. I don't have to play every game. That's part of my own internet hygiene. All right. Try to listen and ask genuine questions more than you talk. Very hard. Very hard. That's what I do when I invite people in to talk with me. I also like to talk a lot, which is why I do monologues. I suggest if you really want to talk a lot and not to ask questions and hear other people talk, try doing long monologues. This to me is like it's a video and audible diary that I share. This is kind of like a diary. Try to not interrupt. I reserve the right to moot and boot, moot and scoot, moot and boot and boogie. That's a Brooks and Dunn. It's a Brooks and Dunn mootin' and bootin'. And then you can boogie on to other things in your life, because internet's a big place. Go be somewhere else on the internet, or go touch grass. Go do Tai Chi in your yard. Do a handstand. Do a cartwheel. Do a somersault. Do a reverse somersault. Can you do a reverse somersault? I mean, there's lots of things you can do except be on my channel. But I also am glad if you're here and you want to chat. That would be fantastic. All right. I am going to now share. I think I fulfilled on the stuff, although it was a lot more about boundaries. All right. I'm going to open this up to people. And we can come in and talk about some things. We could talk about boundaries. We could talk about internet hygiene, or like internet hospitality, internet boundaries. I don't know what another good internet health, maybe. How to be healthy online. Is this part of electricity? Internet literacy? Let me know. And I'm going to, so here, I will paste this. I will pin it. I will do some branding, and then we can chat, or I'll go look through comments. Here we go. Branding. What branding? What did I already do? Some narcissism stuff. Let's do this one. Let's do a thing where I talk about how I know everything and how great I am, and then how I'm narcissistic. Let's do that.
Someone like me has to give you. It's kind of there's David and Samson again. Do I need to give you permission, Luke Thompson, to have different modalities? No, that's absurd. I need to realize that I was the one that misunderstood. You were already operating in that space, and I am lower than. And I didn't see from my lower position on the mountain, I didn't see the other dimensions of what was happening higher up.
Yeah, the TLC would work so much better if people always just realize when they don't understand me, I'm just higher up the mountain.
Yeah.
I'm in the clouds, and you guys just don't get it. Eventually, you'll get it. That's kind of a joke, but it's also not a joke because I often feel that way because I'm an asshole.
All right. Now to get to the delivery on the antisocial part. And that is all right. The guy in the top left, he's a drinking game where every time he says the word I, you take a shot. You take a shot and you'll be dead in 10 minutes.
All right, I pinned it. Yeah, well, I think so. Skank. So this is part of it. The Thomistic semiotic bros are trying to do when they talk about metaphysics. Now, okay, here's the thing. As much as I like to talk about metaphysics and philosophy, I don't think that's what leads to proper knowing. Because again, it's the love thing. You could talk about Thomistic. It's like the theologian in The Great Divorce, who's in the gray world, which is like, I don't know, hell or Hades or intermediate state. He's in like this in-between place between like absolute non-being and hell and heaven, right? Because he's not even on the bus. He's in some ring of hell. And he talks about God all the time. You know, but that you could talk about the metaphysics of Thomas and semiotics forever and not love. This is why I say you can be right and be wrong, and be wrong and be right. I like talking about philosophy. I don't know that it has necessarily anything to do with being a holy person. This is why in like the Eastern Church, theologians are holy people who are good, people who love, people who forgive. Now, and that's not like, and this isn't to talk about philosophy, talk about metaphysics. I love it. It's fantastic. But it's not a good in and of itself. Like it's not and I don't think that it's kind of like Scout, my video about Scout, who, look at this guy. I'll finish the thought and then see what you have to say. It's like that video I made about Scout where they were studying all that stuff because they're studying that they have the major of decolonizing academia. And I'm like, well, you're decolonizing academia in the medium of academia. So like, I don't know. I think it's just up for debate whether or not that's even possible. Because I just think studying things intellectually per se, in and of itself, isn't going to necessarily lead you to proper knowledge, to the knowledge that loves and builds up. What up, Jason?
Nothing much, just working. I thought I'd hop on, hang out, see my friend.
Oh, look at you. Do you have any squirrels outside?
Not at the moment. There's a big pile of almonds on top of the fridge, our porch fridge, like my favorite thing that we own. The porch fridge that still has a bunch of alcohol in it from our wedding.
Dude, you're gonna get it all drunk before drinking?
No,
It goes bad?
I don't drink enough. Nah.
Yeah.
Does it go bad? Alcohol just gets better over time, right?
No, dude, that's like wine. That's not like cans of
Well,
like,
maybe I'll give that to the squirrels too. Maybe. Yeah.
Some beer can age. I had a buddy who was really into beer aging for a while, but it's only certain they got to be bottle conditioned. That's why wine works that way, because it's bottle conditioned, and beers that are bottle conditioned can age.
Well, these are ciders.
Mm-hmm.
There's no beer.
Yeah,
Ciders,
cider.
and we have a bunch of wine still, and a ton of champagne.
Ooh, champagne or
Yeah.
sparkling wine.
The problem is whenever we do drink, we never really drink those. We just we'll make a mixed drink or something. So, yeah,
We should just have an
moonshine.
impromptu party at Jason's place again. Everyone come to Colorado.
Yeah,
Let's
bring
go.
your tank top. It's actually crazy warm here all the time. I mean, it'll say it's like 40 degrees out, and I'll still be in a tank top.
I want to find the picture from that. Do you think I can? I don't know. Apple Photos, I don't think works well enough to look up stuff like this.
You have to
It
be
might.
extremely detailed.
Tank top.
Luke with sexy boys, sleeveless shirts, nipples
Sexy
out.
sexy boys. I could
Just
find
look
it
up-
by just the
Just look up
time.
eggs and you'll find the picture.
Eggs.
close
Yeah.
by.
I don't know that I
What?
took a picture of those eggs though. That was
my pile of eggs.
That pile of eggs is like burned into my memory.
it was very
Because you
good.
you just brought it out from the fridge. You're like, hey guys, want eggs? I was like, what do you mean you want eggs?
This is a keto pizza I made. Look at.
Ooh, that's nice.
That's restaurant quality.
Keto pizza. What's the crust?
I think I usually do a mix of like
Joseph.
almond flour, coconut flour, eggs,
Nice.
some spice. Oh, little cream cheese. What up, Yosef? I'm looking for a picture of Jess and I at
Joseph has the opposite of a tank top on.
at Jason's wedding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
dude.
that's the anti-tank.
It
You guys
still looks
can
pretty
have-
hard though. I don't know. It looks like one of those shirts people would still wear at the gym, and they'd flex on everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does have a shark on it also.
Oh, that's great.
Ooh, shark.
Is the yarmulke like the tank top of hats?
Yeah, I saw this meme the other day that was I was related to it. It was talking about how hammerhead sharks were terrifying when I was a kid, and then you never hear about them anymore. They just dropped off the map. How come you never hear about the hammerhead sharks anymore?
I hear about them.
You do?
Yeah,
He
but
did.
like, maybe
That was
I'm
a
on the
cartoon.
hammerhead shark algorithm.
Well, there was also
You
that
need to
there was a cartoon of hammerhead sharks, wasn't there? Back in like the late 80s, early 90s. What was
Oh.
that cartoon?
Yeah, they were like super jacked.
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah. There was some action figure where it was like the head of a hammerhead shark and then the body of like a man. or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
that's the look I'm going for. Yeah.
Oh, who do we got?
Who do we got?
This is someone I don't know. Newbie.
Uh-oh. The hammerhead track.
Ethan, what up?
How's it going?
Not
Hey.
too bad, man. I don't know you. Tell us who you are and why you are here.
Yeah, well, first let's just say if you hear like noise, that's just my son. He's just playing stuff.
That's
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope you can keep it
big
quiet.
fans of children here. Jason needs to have them. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right,
let's
all
get
right.
the babies going.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've been listening to your streams for probably maybe like 6 or 8 months now. I've been in the TLC listening to Paul for about a year and a half. I in the Portland area, so I go to the Portland estuary when I can.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like is this the coming out of the lurk? Is this your
Yeah,
lurk
coming out of the
viewpoint?
lurk. Yeah.
You're making Luke very, very happy.
I know.
That's so good. That's fantastic. I am looking for this. I'm still looking for the picture of the tank top, but I'm just finding other pictures that I want to share, but they're inappropriate. This is one of my favorite. This is one of my favorite little like memes of all time. This little that little GIF. I love it, which I couldn't find it anywhere, so I just saved it on my phone. It's fantastic.
I did that a lot. You need them just in case you need to pull that out whenever you want it. You know.
This is me in like a sweater tank top with a really masculine pose.
Why aren't you wearing that right now?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I
Is
don't
it cold
know.
there?
Also, look at this picture. This is just the part of the show where I just show people pictures on my phone. Look at how BA that is.
Is that Mary?
I think it's just like a really goldened up.
What's that
Relic.
lady in Mexico that they would like?
The lady in Mexico.
And why is Joseph laughing?
You mean the
Is that uncultured?
what? It's Guadalupe. It's
Yeah.
Joseph, tell us about
No. It's
educate
another
us
lady.
about Christianity, please.
Tell you about yes, exactly, yes.
Oh, we found it.
Oh
Let me
yeah.
see.
Does
Santa
anyone
Morte.
extra points for anyone who knows who's with Jason and I there? Don't tell them.
Gosh. Okay.
I know.
Yeah.
I know you know. No one
I
on.
think I took that picture.
Yeah, you probably did because you were
Hey,
in it.
send-
Were you in a tank top?
I don't have
I
that
didn't
picture.
put on a tank top.
Send me that picture. We need to turn that into t-shirts. T-shirts
I'll
of
send
us
it to you.
wearing
We should,
t-shirts.
we should turn it into tank tops.
yeah. Just
I'll
an
send it to
infinite
you right
tank top.
now.
So Ethan, did you have something you wanted to chat about? Come on here. I mean, not that I'm the host, but
Nothing particularly. I just
What's
kind of hopped on.
Do you have a favorite shark?
Favorite shark?
Yeah.
Oh,
What's your favorite shark?
Oh,
What's your favorite hammerhead shark?
probably hammerhead. Yeah. That was the one I had in mind. Yeah.
The one on what was that movie Flipper with Elijah Wood? Did anybody else see that? I watched that movie too many times. The
What?
hammerhead shark was the bad guy.
Don't mention the Enneagram.
Elijah Woods and don't
Yeah,
mention
he
the
is.
Instagram, Jack.
His name is Sandy.
My favorite shark is dun 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 dun.
I always like Grandma Shark with the. That's funny.
What is shark?
Is that part of the baby shark thing?
Yeah, because you do like Baby Shark like this, and then it's Mama Shark, then it's Daddy Shark, and then
Oh.
it's Grandma Shark. She doesn't.
I
have
never
a tail.
actually see. Here's the thing: I wasn't actually initiated in Baby Shark, so I don't really know it.
yeah, kids are
You
I
cool.
said
just
you
know it's
loved
like
it.
a meme.
How do you love it? How can you say you love it if you don't know it?
That's what I'm saying. I
Oh.
don't. I don't love it. I don't even know about Grandma Shark.
It could be working, but I thought I'd jump on and talk about baby sharks without teeth.
Well, actually, I really liked. I came on because I liked Mark's comment. Because I thought it was a good comment about boundaries and loving there for Luke, right? You had a comment, Mark, earlier on.
Okay, I'm gonna find it.
On your wife and spreading seed.
Whoa, whoa, Mark. Take it easy.
That was a joke.
No, but it was exactly the point I want to push Luke on a little bit though, because from like from a Kabbalistic framework. Sorry, guys, we're gonna talk about Kabbalah for a second.
Fine.
I love Kabbalah.
No, you guys will
let's
love it.
do it.
Your commenters won't. Your commenters won't.
Oh.
So, but
Okay, I'm looking.
that you always have a balance, right? I mean, we know this in psychology too, but like we've been talking about this for much longer in Kabbalah. That love is expansive and it wants to include everything, and you want to love everything, and like you want peace with all men, and love just like has no boundary. Like a real like infinite love has no boundary. But then it's not really true love in some sense, because part of relational love is that you love one other person or an other person, and that it has a
Boundary.
target, and that means that it has to have a boundary to be fully loving, even as that love is bounded, right? So like bounded love is true full love. Infinite love is not true full love because it's not balanced, right? And I think like to that point, and you also said something about like, you're giving up on words, but like from, again, in this perspective, like words are the things, the finite things that help us contain the infinite ideas and things. And like God, right, himself uses words to contain creation into something finite, then express it into an even larger finitude in a sense. But it doesn't become infinite, right? Like it's putting boundaries on things so I can express them to other people. And there's this
Joseph,
beautiful.
can I quickly interrupt?
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I commented, it was a joke. I said if I spread my seed, my wife would divorce me. It
Yeah,
was something like that.
and absolutely, because it's not, because it wouldn't be true love. If you showed love to every woman, then it wouldn't be true love to your wife. Like that is my point. That is a joke. I mean, I totally get that. I don't want to, not trying to cast aspersions on Mark here. Jesus. Where's his relationship?
There it is. I found it.
Yeah, there you go.
What is? Sorry, I'm getting distracted by
This
Claire's comments.
also
We were
goes
talking about.
to the image of a Torah scroll. So a Torah scroll is white, right? And it has someone's written black ink on it, a scribe. And if it was if everything was black, then you wouldn't be able to read it. And if everything was white, you wouldn't be able to read it. You wouldn't know anything about God's will, commandments, law, love. Like, at least from that perspective, you know about love from other ways. We could talk about law from other ways, but like you wouldn't know what was being communicated if it was just one color or the other. You need something to bind it, which is the shapes. And in fact, there's this beautiful image in the Midrash that Zevi Slavin likes to quote too, where like the white space in between the letters is the space we make for each other so we can hear each other. So each letter can be heard by each other letter, because there's a correspondence between letters and people. So like we are the finite expression of each of us as a letter kind of in the scroll, but we also need to contract ourselves and not be everywhere so we can and make that white space so we can actually see all the other letters next to us and hear them, right? And there is this really, I mean, I know you know, Luke, you're aware of Tzimtzum, because whatever, I can't remember which Christian writer, but is it Bell? One of them like has picked up on this idea, right? But like this contraction of the self is boundaries, right? It's a self boundary, as much as the bounding of one's love.
Mm-hmm.
So when do you exercise boundaries in your own personal life? Like, because that's the thing. I mean, honestly, that's part of it. I have that. This is something I've had to learn about myself, that because of my own, either, like I said, I was saying before in my monologue, either because of my own moral and character insufficiencies or inadequacies or inabilities, sometimes I have to set up boundaries to protect myself and other people, because like perhaps with my kids, just be like, I'm going to tell you something and we're not going to debate this point, because if you continually debate this point because of situations that have happened in the past, you're going to get into arguments and one of you is eventually going to get angry. And so like, that's not a good thing. So then you have to set up like this hard line, this boundary of like, we're not going to do this. And that can seem like a very, I think there's a way to do that can seem like a very disciplinarian, authoritarian, because I said so kind of a thing. But there's a way to do it just out of love, to just be like, we have to do this because I'm the parent. This isn't like egalitarian thing, and we have to function together, But I have that with my wife too. There's certain things like we just can't do because I know it's not going to work.
And it's a daily struggle to find like the right balance between these two things. I think there's a real big temptation to go one way or the other because of that struggle. It's a lot easier just to say all love or all boundaries, no love. And because like it's easier to operate in one mode than try to work on balance. And this is, I know around here you're more all Neoplatonists than Aristotelians, but like the whole point of the golden mean is like you're trying to always balance between two virtues. And there's like there's two virtues here that if you're too extreme on either one, like things go bad. You too much love or too much boundaries, things go bad. You need to find that medium, but you always are going to do that dance. And it's not a static dance, right? Every day that's going to change. Like with your example, right? So like I think about Gottman's work, right? So Gottman, famous psychologist, lots of experiments. Most of his psychology is based on like experimental data, much less anecdotal than other forms. And his stuff is like, there are, I think 60% of arguments between a couple, or like things that keep coming up, like are non-resolvable. They're going to be perennial arguments that you're going to always have because they have to do with fundamental differences in your perspectival knowing and the way you participate in the world, the way like there's your history, your personal baggage, whatever. Like I can't remember if it's exactly 60 or 70, whatever it is though. It's like more than half of those arguments you have like they're just gonna always come up. And the point isn't that you're going to ever resolve them. You're never going to resolve the perennial stuff generally. It's really unlikely because they're fundamental. I mean, yes, you guys could have major personality shifts or something, but generally like you should assume that you'll always have these. Mark has a point to say about this.
Well, I don't think I'm disagreeing with you. There's this kind of cultural movement where I'm not American or I'm not Israeli or I'm not English or whatever. I am a creature of this world and I love everyone. And it's like, no, that's impossible. It's technically impossible. And so we have a sequence of events. So we start off part of our mother, and we have a connection with our mother, and it develops over 9 months. when we're born, we still have this connection. And my wife says, actually, the baby still thinks it's part of the mother for a certain length of time.
Mhm.
I'm not arguing with her on that because I don't know, but that's her belief. But then we recognize our father, and maybe we recognize our siblings, and so we start to understand family. And then we understand people around us, familial, call it tribe or village or that kind of thing. So we're slowly expanding this awareness and familiarity. But it's very difficult, it seems, universally, to go past tribe and to get to the idea of nation. And I'm English. It's like, well, I'm from this particular region of England and I know all the people there and it's great and we're all cool together. What's this English thing? So you need a stepping stone to go from tribe to nation. And I think it's something like state in America. So I'm Texan and I'm a proud Texan, or in English, I'm a proud Yorkshireman. And so you have a stepping stone, and then you can be a proud Englishman or a proud Scotsman or whatever. And then maybe after that, you can go to, I'm a creature of this earth. But almost nobody does that. But I think if you miss a step and you go from, well, I'm in this little tribe to I'm a creature of the earth, it's kind of like disease. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
It could be. I would say that even Peter Singer, who is very much someone who doesn't want to pay attention to his immediate commitments, even to his family, in the sense of, right, so he gave away a kidney to a random stranger, very laudable thing to do, but he was like, people said, like, why don't you save it for your kids? And he was like, one, I don't know if my kids will ever need it. Two, like, you're assuming that we're going to be matches, which the probability is higher, but it's not given. And like, this person needs this now or they're going to die, and I'm going to give away my kidney to, like, even he, who really tries to live out this, not just in the kidney thing, but in many ways he tries to live out like that he's going to treat his family members the way he treats strangers and vice versa, right? He's not just saying he's going to like lower his love for his family and, as a way to, and he's saying that he wants to treat them equally in his ethical commitment to them. He has to make a choice at some point to commit his kidney to one person. And it's not like, it's not just randomly, it's like, giving, 1/10,000th of it to 10,000 people. Like, it only works for one person. It's not a good that can be distributed like in any other way. And like, eventually there is going to be a relational commitment. And I think he's met the person, like, it's right. So he actually has like a relational, like, foundation that he's built like this act of giving on. And part of, to Luke's point, like, at some point you have to, like, decision making, when you have to make a decision, like, there is a zero sumness to decisions where you either do one thing or another thing, you commit to one person or another. And like, it's never going to be able to be split between the multiple perspectives and people and the boundaries and the love. Like, you have to sort of go along with one position, even if you recognize the other person's feelings are valid, or even if there's some truth to their statement. Like, you can't do everything. So you have to focus. And like, this is
well, that's why I like the marriage thing, because it's just like, my picking of my wife isn't an indictment of all other women. Right. My picking, even like my religious practice, isn't an indictment of every other religion either.
So
but
here's,
I'm picking that
it
one.
Could be, right? So there it's a little trickier, right? Yeah. Because I like comparing how the rabbis and the kind of decided things together versus how the councils did. The rabbis are saying, like, there are a lot of opinions on a lot of things, and for the most part, we're going to let people argue about almost every one of them. But when it comes down to practice, you have to make a decision on one way to do a practice, because we can't all practice like in different ways, even if the other position, and we're going to still honor the other position. We're going to still preserve their argument in our tradition. The minority position's there. Like, we're not going to erase them. We're not going to call them anathema. We're not going to kick them out. they do have to accept that like this is how everyone's going to practice X, because, and not every practice is like this, but certain practices have to be like this because we, like you and your child are fighting, and like you are, and like at some point like you have to make a decision. So they came up with a way for like, you know, basically a majority vote sort of rule on like how we choose a decision. Now the councils in some ways, I think this like changes, right? Because in the early councils, there's both procedural and propositional stuff they're talking about, right? They're talking about the Trinity a lot, but they're also talking about the Data Pascha, or they're talking about whatever, you know, they are talking about both. And there is this kind of divergence where like you don't really find, the rabbis are generally not voting on propositional issues. It's really rare that they're going to say, this is where we're going on there. Whereas the Christians, because of, for various historical reasons, like the way that their sect is defined is much more about belief in a very solid way. Like they do have to say, like, at least these are the core beliefs. We have to like decide, and then everyone has, we're going to take the church is going to come to some sort of agreement. We can, whatever, it's going to be a little different than how rabbis did it, but they're going to come to some sort of agreement on how we decide that this is the belief that everyone has to have. This is the creed, etc. Now I know creeds may not be as propositional as sometimes they're portrayed in the West. I get that. I think the Eastern Orthodox eventually take more of the side in their later councils and like and decision-making apparatus on like, we're going to be much more focused on the procedural, and like it looks more Jewish in that we all have to have the same liturgy. We all have to have basically the same practices on the bread, the icons, whatever it is, we're going to leave more of the propositional open-handed. The West kind of takes the other side of the early councils and say, we're going to actually much more formalize the propositional side, and it's the procedural side somewhat that we're not going to decide in council in the same way, right? The focus is much more going to be on proposition. But I think like there is like, to the point of the Thomists, like, or the semiotics that you were making earlier, like the question of when you have to make a decision and come up with a boundary is very different when you're talking about procedural versus propositional. And that leads to like very different ways of approaching the world and setting those boundaries. And if it's like, you have to actually agree with my opinion versus we just need to agree that in this moment, you are not going to play in the street, like those are just not the same, right?
Right. Well, and that's kind of
work in different modes.
Two things about that. Like that really reminds me of a lot of what Martin Shaw is talking about in here about like indigenous belief and indigenous, because he gets together with this Black Elk's he's a famous indigenous person from America who converted to Catholicism apparently, but he wrote a book called Black Elk Speaks. But apparently Martin Shaw knew him, and that's one of the things he talks about a lot in here related to myth, because the whole book's about myth and liturgies in the wild. And he's saying like myth is defined by the necessary limitation of place. Myth didn't come out of like nowhere. Like it came from a like rooted place and people, and it's very connected to liturgy and procedure. Like you don't get myths unless you like go out in the woods. Like you're connected to, and that's a very ancient, I mean, it is a very ancient thing. I think that is kind of where Orthodoxy is more Jewish in that sense, because like the rituals really matter. Like you won't see what you're supposed to see without the rituals.
It's more than that. And I would say this is to like give a point to the Zionists, like part of the religious Zionists is like you can't really live out the Bible outside of the land of Israel. That point is because like you have to be in the land and reconnected to the land and be on the agricultural cycle and have the, like Jews in Europe, it was so difficult for them to get citron and palm leaves. Palm leaves is a little easier because the Christians were able to do it, but it was the wrong time of year for the Christians. But like they had to set up global trade networks to get these things from like other lands because like there was no way to get them otherwise. And like sometimes they would have to save them year to year because they couldn't, you know, because of famine and drought and disrupted trade networks and war, like they couldn't necessarily get like fresh stuff from the Middle East every year. And yeah, I mean, like there was a real, I mean, that's like a very practical example, but I mean, and material one, but there's this like myths have to be lived out in a place is like a really core part of this. And like how much can they be transported? How scalable are they, right? Like that is really the question that Christianity sort of tries to take on, and some degree also the rabbis in diaspora is like, how can you live this outside of the land, and how can you scale it to people who have no connection to that geography, who have no connection to that place? Like they won't get the symbolism until I mean, I'm going to talk about David later about, you know, building on your conversation with him, Luke, right? Like, how can we now say we understand the symbolism better than they did 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago in the actual geographies and places and material cultures they were living in. Like our symbolism is, we're building it backward from European symbolism and German symbolism, Anglo-Saxon symbolism, right? It doesn't, and it's not the same symbols. And symbolism is not universal because different geographies are different in really fundamental ways.
Yeah, it's like what you see in here depends a lot upon where you're standing and the kind of person you are.
Let's
go ahead, Jess. I just want to say, Kirk's here. I got just an admin thing. I'm going to cap it at 1:45. So we got 25 minutes. So we gotta. Ethan, you gotta. If you raise a hand or something, I can play host and try to like cut in sometimes for the more verbose among us. But I'll give people an opportunity to speak if they have things to say, because we have Jonathan and Cool Kid Kirk here and Jacob who haven't spoken. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'll let Jacob speak first because he is wiser than I am.
Oh, nice.
If that's the thing, then only Yosef gets to speak.
Yes, and Luke.
Jonathan, long time no see. How have you been?
Yo, good man. How are you?
I just came and saw a bunch of people I wanted to say hi to. It's been forever since Jason's been on a stream. It's been forever.
I'm trying to get on more lately.
My streams. He's too good for my streams.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. What up, Jason? Jess.
Hey.
Yosef. Nice to see you all. Luke.
Hi, Jonathan.
See you too. I wonder if because what is a modern person living in a modern city situation, like what do they have to contend with? They're not contending with the woods or agriculture or the cycle of the seasons. They have a room. They maybe have an air conditioner or a heater. They got to figure out some plumbing that maybe can cause problems every now and then. They've got to find some sort of employment in the city, like when the liturgies we're involved in our day-to-day life don't come in contact with any of the things like Martin Shaw's talking about, and so in order to come in contact with this stuff, you have to intentionally make the choice. You're like, I'm going to grow something. I'm going to go buy a plant and I'm going to start a relationship with this plant, and I'm going to try to water it and give it fertilizer and not let it die. And then maybe you grow a garden or whatever, but it's all voluntary. And so because it's voluntary, people think it's arbitrary or something. But it's weird because you're like, well, the farmer knows. I worked for a rural TV network for a while. I went out and interviewed farmers for different reasons, mostly commercials or whatever. I talked to this one farmer, and you kind of have this idea of oh, the farmer knows the land or whatever. I talked to him, and he's like, I have no idea what's going on. Basically, I hire out a spray guy, I hire out a planting guy, I hire out this other guy, and then each of those guys has their own their own specific thing that they do. So the guy comes out to spray, and he goes and he takes soil samples where he takes data from the harvester that was gathering all the moisture data, via GPS. They as they're harvesting, they measure the moisture content of the crop as they're harvesting, so that next year they take that data, and then when he goes and sprays, he knows to spray this much here and this much over here and this much over here, down to the square foot or whatever. And no one knows. Everyone's disconnected from the whole thing. Maybe Sherry knows. Maybe Sherry's the only one that
Sherry knows.
But because you have to encounter it voluntarily now, in order to kind of go back, it makes people think it's either optional or arbitrary or something else. This.
Yeah. So what I was just going to say is that this kind of reminds me of there's an evolutionary biologist named Brett Weinstein, and he talks about the idea that one of the problems with modern culture is that we're so disconnected from our natural ways of being, and so it's evolutionarily maladaptive, if that makes sense. I don't know if that connects with what you're talking about, but it's kind of a scientific paradox.
It does, but it puts us in this weird position because we don't like being in contact with the natural world because it kills us and makes us sick and it hurts. And we don't want, we don't want that for our kids. And so like our parents and our parents' parents and our parents' parents' parents all tried to make things better for us. And now here we are.
So,
Yeah,
I don't think
ahead.
I don't know if anyone actually knew before either. And so Ecclesiastes 11, right? It is literally about you should cast your bread upon the waters and give portion to 7 or 8. It's talking about spreading seed. 2 mark left. If the rains are full, they empty themselves in the earth. You don't know where they'll fall. You could wait for the observing the wind, and you won't end up sowing. You regard the clouds, and you won't reap. Right. So like this guy is basically just like frozen. He's trying to do the science of farming, but this is 2000 whatever between 2,500 and 2,900 years ago, right? A long time ago. And he's in the same predicament. He doesn't have some like master knowledge, but what he does instead is he goes to the next part of those verses, right? He says like, so you should act and sow more than you need. So big, and you're going to have like redundancy. You're going to do your best. You're going to reap as much as you can. At some point you just make a decision, and it's a boundary. You're going to make a hard decision. I can't wait forever. I need to sow now. I need to reap now. I need to eat. And like, it may not be the optimal solution. In fact, it's not going to necessarily be the optimal solution. He doesn't know. Now, the people now might have better science. They might know a little bit better than him. Maybe they have 20% more certainty. But like, the wisdom here wasn't like I know how to do this better. It's just like, I'm going to look at it from the next level up, which is I know I need to act. I know that I need redundancy. I know that I need to sow more than I need just in case parts of it fail. I know that I need, and that was the wisdom. It wasn't like some deep shamanic mystical, like, I can read the earth's, wetness, like at this point better than any machine can if I dip my finger into the second knuckle. Like, it's just not that.
It's almost like intellectual humility is the point.
Yeah. I think part of the difference is, while we may not have had like a method by which to manipulate or understand it formulaically, we would have had a perception of it. And then having that perception can get you in touch with the fact that you don't understand it, versus now it seems like we don't even have the perception, and then we can't be even in touch with our lack of understanding.
I would also challenge Jess a little bit on, we have urban myth. I mean, the rise of the novel, the rise of the detective mystery, like there's all these stories that happen when cities happen, like when modern cities happen. Oh, there you go. Look at that. Sam agrees with me. I hadn't even seen the comment. We have myths to deal with. And you know what? You quoted part of that urban myth. The urban myth is that nature is dangerous and dark and going to kill us. That was not always the view of everything in all times, right? Like, it's a very specific view. And there were times, pre-modern times, where people really did have that same view. I'm not saying that myth is only urban. There are people who are very afraid of the forest. If they live in places with lots of wolves or bears or, like, for sure, lions, right? Like, there's dangers out there. But it became much more integrated into the urban myth of, like, rural areas are weird people with scary situations. And you see this even with the Brothers Grimm, right? Because, like, the myths that they're preserving and bringing in, a lot of them are about weird people live out in the woods and you shouldn't interact with them. Like, they might kill you.
All the myths about wolves are basically false. It's rare that wolves kill people. It's very
yeah. But again,
you know that my great grandfather, his nickname was Wolfer Thompson, and his job, he was one of the first white men in South Dakota. His job was to eradicate the wolves. So that's all he did, was went and killed wolves in South Dakota.
I read this amazing book, not to get too sidetracked, but I forget the guy's name. He also wrote Call of the Wild. No, it wasn't Jack London.
Jack London.
No, it was another guy. That's not the right book. Anyway, so it's actually kind of like it's a novel / story of him. That the story, true story, but he's told by the Canadian government he needs to go figure out why the elk population is kind of like collapsing, and they have a suspicion that it's these wolf packs are getting pretty big and taking out a lot of these elk or whatever. And so he goes out and he actually goes and just sort of lives in the wild, pitches a tent near some wolves and starts studying them. And what he finds out is that the wolves actually like sort of take care of the pack and they like follow them and stuff. And they don't just kill indiscriminately lots of elk or whatever. And the population, so he ends up, it's all the story about him kind of coming in contact with these wolves and the interactions with them, which are all pretty cool. But the conclusion of his study was that there was a Native American reservation nearby, and the imagery is there was this one guy, he would just basically kill an elk every week or a couple every week, and there's just elk antlers and bones just scattered all in the field around, but that wasn't the story that they wanted to hear. And so they ditched his study that said the wolves weren't to blame and didn't really look at the evidence of like humans were over hunting the elk. And then they decided to go eradicate the wolf packs or move them or whatever they were doing. And anyway, I mean, I was kind of just sort of making a little bit of an argument from, like what kind of myths do we have? How do we get in contact? And then what does that mean to us? Because I love cities. I love being around people. Like I lived in New York City for a while, and it was probably one of my favorite experiences that I've ever had. I've been
to New York twice, and I hated it. Like I couldn't believe.
It's better now that Monami's there.
Is it?
I'm just baiting.
It was a while ago when I was there, but it was great. I love being around people, and just like, even though like we don't just like, I like being around people and just feeling like, hey, we're all going to work together. We're all in the subway together. We're all doing this thing. Like, even though like people like are not really happy with each other or whatever, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just like,
they are running on the sidewalks, and if you walk on the sidewalk, they get mad at you.
Yeah. I love it.
That is insane. Insane.
I'm like, yeah. Like, tell me to move.
I'm
like,
walking on the sidewalk, and
and
people like are giving me dirty looks for walking on the sidewalk.
So what is it about the wild, or what is it about myth that we're craving? Is it something that it reflects something to us about ourselves that can help us understand ourselves better or grow, or what are we looking for when we want myths, whether wild or urban or?
I think it's a wisdom
otherwise.
to navigate your environment, right? It's a wisdom how the agent and arena relationship, should be navigated, or not, right? Like some of them are, a lot of myths are where that goes.
If I could chime in, it makes me think about how I was raised more secular, and then coming to like this, seeing the story of Christianity, like it really helped. Like it gave me a certain piece. I was like, oh, it kind of, I see like what's going on, or like I'm in the story that I'm in, so it's less confusing and overwhelming, like. And particularly sometimes I think about that with people who like were raised in Christianity, who have like this framing of spiritual warfare, and it's like, that's pretty, like sometimes it can go too far, of course, when it's like, like there's demons everywhere and they're out to get you and stuff, but like just the basic framing that like you're like, there are bad, like there's kind of a naive thing with modernity too, I think, about like the evils of the world. It's like, there'd be, so I don't know, that's kind of, sometimes I'm like, yeah, those people were blessed to like be aware that like the fallen, like, that we live in the fallen world or something like that, which I think is, dicey. It's of course very complicated, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think I agree with what Yosef said about the wisdom piece of it, but then there's like a I don't know, a worldview or a perspective, some sort of belief that's inherent within how to navigate your world, like what it is that you're trying to do is baked into that. So I think myth also binds us together around some sort of common understanding of the good or whatever is your highest value, that sort of thing. Religio.
There's also, like Martin Shaw says in here, what did he say? Like myths are time-bound and timeless. So like they're connected to a place and a time, but they're also timeless in that they have transcendent eternal truths in them, which is what makes them mythic. And so they're not, I don't know, I like the difference between a story, at least a story and a myth, because it depends on what you mean by a story. Like stories can be mythic, but sometimes stories are, I feel like there are definitely people in the TLC or at large in the world now that will talk this way. Is like, we need some uniting story, but what they really mean is like a propositional, confessional, structural narrative to tell everybody else what to think and how to act. And that's not a myth.
That's a game.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I got to talk to JP Marceau for the podcast yesterday, and we just discussed his book, and we got into like talking about Christ as the incarnation as like the pattern of all patterns or something like that. And I think that when a myth is useful or like widely held or I don't know, understood maybe by a culture, then it allows you to take those stories, your anecdotes from your day-to-day life and be like, oh yeah, this is like Snow White, or this is like Sir Galahad, or like I'm like this part of this story. And even like in Hebrew literature, that's what the whole Old Testament is doing, is taking like the first 3 chapters of the Bible and then replaying everything down on through the generations. So you get stories where Abraham is like the snake, and that makes you think, oh shit, if Abraham can be the snake, then I could be the snake, and then there's other stories where Abraham gets to be more heroic or maybe make the right choice at the fork in the road or whatever. And then I guess like in the New Testament, Paul would say there's a list of people that made that correct choice at the fork in the road. They opted for faith, and those are the mythic archetypes that we want to be like, the positive examples.
There's a whole thread about like it's making me think about some like more far out there kind of stuff about like ether and like morphogenetic fields and stuff, and how like forms are created, and these are like stories and stuff. It's like patterns in time, right? Patterns of ways that things happen, and that like these, such that like myths are these kind of real forms, that like have a kind of formal effect on the particular or something like that, such that I think that this is kind of what is meant by ether or something like that, where it's like that these stories or these patterns exist, and like also that they're not just like static eternal forms or something, that they evolve or something like that. And yeah, that's very interesting to me. That's what I've been thinking about a lot recently, is like etheric vision being basically analogous to symbolic or like mythic perception or something like that. But then there would be like higher, in Steiner's cosmology. Here I am already talking about Steiner.
You're such a psychedelic.
You got the physical, the etheric, the astral, and then like the I or the ego. So, but yeah, that's just what that's making me think of, like, and how that's like that. There's a certain ontological reality to these myths,
I wanna read a section about like the power of myth from this book. It's super early on, and then people can go around. We give the last words. So he tells all these little stories about his experience in going around for however many years he has, 20 some odd years, doing like myth and storytelling. And so he said, Ruth is sitting with her back against a rowan tree in a Dartmoor forest. She's talking about the rape she endured at 14 as if it happened to someone else. The horror's been told so often it's taken on a literary polish. I listen and prod the fire. I then ask her to tell the story in a way she's never done before, not for the podcast listeners or the TED Talk, not as a motivational speech about overcoming adversity. No, tell it like a fairy tale. Tell it in the third person. Something unexpected happens when you do that, something beyond your own imaginative choreography. She tells the story in this way. Once upon a time, at the end of her childhood, a young woman found herself lost in a forest. Suddenly, tears fall like rain. She stays with it, grasping and occasionally silenced, but valiantly holding the thread. And at the end, I asked her the old storytime question, and what happened next? Suddenly, the earth is ancient and listening closely to her. I mean, it's just, it's good stuff, because I think that is it. Like, it gets beyond your watchful dragons or the narratives or the information you tell yourself, because like all that stuff, I mean, as a young kid say, that's all cope. Like you can psychologize anything, you can medicalize something, you can do a lot of stuff, but like those can just be copes. Go ahead, Yosef. Disagree with your last word, but make it succinct so other people have time.
Yeah, well, so it's interesting. You can't psychologize anything, but and yet, I think there's so much value there. I mean, maybe Jacob's here. We can talk about found comfort for a second. So right now I have a new Haggadah. Haggadah is kind of like the liturgy for the Passover meal, the Seder, that came out this year. And it is written by a rabbi who's a psychologist, and he's using the Seder as a form of like, he's tends to be much in like attachment theory and IFS stuff. But he's basically like using the Seder as a way to go through that experience of like talking to your inner children and asking them questions and bringing them to the table and acknowledging them and freeing them from Egypt, right? He's like tying it into all these things in such a way that like, to me, he's allowing for such a level of vulnerability. Like I was saying to my wife last night, like, I don't know that you could actually do this at a Seder, like use his commentary, translate whatever, because like it is, I got a big family meal with your kids running around and your parents there or your in-laws and you have guests like who you may or may not know, like whatever, like, and like his, like it's so cool what he's doing. I love how he's psychologizing it in some ways, but at the same time, and it will allow for such a vulnerable conversation, but like it would be really hard to do because of boundaries, because like it wouldn't have the boundaries necessary to have these vulnerable conversations, right? So I hear your story. I mean, what you just read, absolutely, like there's a power to that, but there is this power within psychologizing that is, and like in taking our liturgies and understanding them psychologically and taking that, like especially prayer liturgies, and like because there's this like weird, we talk now about spiritual things as psychological things, but like you can take things then from psychology and bring them back into spirituality in really strong and meaningful ways. And that's part of the point. I mean, you're talking about boundaries. And what was the first thing I did? The first thing I did was bring up Kabbalah when you talked about boundaries, right? Like to me, like that's the natural move, is that they're totally in dialogue with each other. And we shouldn't be so afraid of psychologizing. Exactly.
No, I'm not, just to clarify, I'm not like saying psychologizing is a bad thing. I said it can be a cope. Jordan Peterson made a bunch of post-religious people religious again through psychology. It's all veiling and unveiling. Like one can blind you or it can free you. And it all depends on like what's going on. Anybody else? Last words?
I started another stream, so after here, there's an after party.
Sweet.
And Luke's not invited.
I got stuff to do. I'll listen, maybe. Can I listen?
Okay. Fine.
Okay.
Fine.
All right.
Fine.
Ethan, thanks for coming. You got a last word?
Yeah. I think the connection between myth and place is really interesting to me. my family just went back and visited where I grew up from a really small town, and there was some recent things in the community that have kind of come out that I was hearing from my extended family, and having mythic language to talk to them about that with was really powerful. And then for me, right now, I'm commuting a lot for work, and so it's interesting. It feels very It feels decentering in a lot of ways, and that's kind of a question I've asked. Like, what is the story I can live in? I have feeling split like that. Like, what is there a way to have two stories? Is there a way to combine those into one narrative? So that's just something I'm thinking through a lot too.
Yeah, thanks. Anybody else? Let's just call it. Let's call it there. Let's go over to Jacob's channel if people want to keep playing. And I think it was Abraham. Or no, I think it was Ian. Sorry. It was right.
Yeah, it's a Tim Mackey trope.
Okay. So yeah, go over and play at Jacob's. Thank everyone for coming. Until next time, let's go out with a little. Let's do Jeff's. Meow, 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 meow. And that'll be all. All right. Bye, everyone. See you.
Meow, 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 meow,